Okay, so welcome to this video. Now it's a Cisco Packet Tracer question. So as you can see, I've changed my wallpaper with this recent cover art for my new song titled FresherWaWa. So I'll drop the link in the description. You can help out by checking it out. So the previous cover was for TachakaMonekeBwino. As you can see, this was the previous song, and this was the official cover for this channel. So with that said, we can now check out our question. So this is under the ICT department. So it caters for cyber security first years in network security, which is YS 120, and data communication for third year ICT students, which is ICT 320. So practical instructions say create a Word document and name it as so your course code, then student number, and then insert the Word document. Inside the Word document, click insert, then tap on header and select 3 blank columns like this. So you enter your details in this manner. So this is the way we enter our details. So course code, name, then student number. So after we do that, now the instruction of the paper, it's saying do not turn this page until you are told to do so. So this is if you are writing a test or an exam. This question paper contains only one question. Attempt all questions under question 1. The time allowed is 2 hours only. So even this tutorial will be restricted to 2 hours. No calculators are allowed. Okay. So question by James Soko. Okay, so that's me. So we can start. So question 1. Open Cisco Packet Tracer and do the following tasks. Okay, so as you can see, our Cisco Packet Tracer is already up. So A, design the topology as shown below. So a topology is just how devices are placed, so either physically or logically. So this is a logical topology, no wonder we are under logical. Okay, so since we need to design this topology is 5 marks, but I won't design it the way it is at first. I'll be following the questions that follow till we complete this topology to earn our 5 marks. So question B, implement VLANs on switch 0. So since we need to implement VLANs on switch 0, I'll drag my switch into our Cisco Packet Tracer like that. So this switch 0 is connected to a PC, a laptop, and a router, which is a PT router. So I'll start off with getting these 2 devices, which are the PCs. So I'll drag my PC, put it there, then another PC, then we drag a laptop, then under network devices we'll get a PT router based on the question, then do it like that. Okay, so we are given an IP address which is /27. So this cyber security department has /27. So in order for us to start answering the question, we need to do a little bit of subnetting, so using a VLSM table. So I'll be doing that on my notepad. So let's create a VLSM table. So this VLSM table is supposed to have a block size. So we'll say block size, then classless interdomain routing, then we need to have the subnet mask. So a block size starts at 1, then CIDR will be starting at 32, then default subnet mask, we need to identify the class. So because it's 19.168.10.2 or any other number, it means this is a class C, and in a class C, in the portion which is 192.168.10, or the first 3 portions don't change. Therefore, it has 8 bits each, but when we convert 8 ones we come up with 255 if we are coming from binary to normal standard. So it means we can have 3 portions which are 255.55.255. Then I'll say dot. Now because it says /32, a slash means the number of ones. So in this case, if this represent 8 ones, even this and this one, it means I have 3 times 8, which is 24. So to come up with 32 ones, I just need to put another 8, which is 255. So by coming up with this, we can now design our VLSM table. So a block size would be saying times 2, or would be multiplying by 2. So we are saying times 2. Then for CIDR, I'll be saying minus 1. Then for the subnet mask, I'll explain later. So block size, if we say 2 times 1, we get 2. Then 32 minus 1, we have 31. Then now for the subnet mask, we'll be following what's on top. So if we want to go at this line, I'll follow this line. So if the block size is 1 and at the end, since this portion doesn't change, I would say 255 minus 1. So 255 minus 1, we're getting 254. Then I'll start again. 2 times 2, we have 4. So 31 minus 1, we have 30. Then at this line again, we have 254 minus 2, which is 252. By now you know the pattern. 2 times 4, we have 8. Okay, so 30 minus 1, we have 29. Then the mask again, let's see, 252 minus 4, so we are getting 248. Then 2 times 8, we are getting 16. Then 29 minus 1, 28. Then for the mask, again we do this, so 248 minus 8, so we are getting 240. Then we continue, 2 times 16, so we are having that's 32. Then 28 minus 1, 27. So the mask again, let's consider this, 240 minus 16, so we are getting 224 or 224. Then 2 times 32, we are getting 64. Then 27 minus 1, we have 26. Then the mask, let's consider what's on top. So we have 224 minus 32, which is 192. Then we have 2 times 64, which is 128. Then 26 minus 1, which is 25. Then let's consider the top block size. So we have 192 minus 64, which is 128. So once we reach 128, under the block sizes, just put a 0. Then we continue, 25 minus 1, 24. Then we consider the top block size again. So we have 128 minus 128, which is now a 0. So this information is needed for us to understand what's here. So we are saying the network which we have, for example, for cyber security. Let me just do this so that you understand what is going on. I'll say cyber security department. So cyber security department, as we can see, we have /27. So if this is a /27, we need to consider this guy who is a /27, this guy. So if we were given an IP address which is a class C, default one, for example 192, okay, let me see IP address range, IP address range. I'm explaining this because you need to understand, otherwise it's not even part of me answering the first question, but it's necessary. So if we are given an IP address which is 192.168.10.0 and we are saying it's a /27, I need to know the block size of a /27. So the block size of a /27 is 32. So if the block size is 32, I just need to add that 32 where there is a 0. So I'll say this 32, which is the block size, plus 0, we are getting 32. But now I need to maintain the broadcast address. I'll say -1 so that it becomes 31. So in this network, this is the range we can have. So if we are saying this PC is .2, it means these guys needed a default gateway maybe of, they needed the gateway maybe of .1, because if this is a network address and this is the default gateway which is .1, .2 can be assigned to this first PC, then .3 can be assigned to the second PC, and so on, but we cannot assign this broadcast address. Now I'm sure you understand that. So based on that, we are going now to follow up the question under that PC, which is for cybersecurity. So by using a label, we are saying this is .2, then /27. So we need to understand what says /27 all about. What's the mask for a /27? So we did our subnetting, which is good. So we are saying a /27 has a default mask of 224 at the end. So we are going to configure this PC with that information. I'll click on the PC, then under desktop, we'll go for IP configuration, then under static, because we are doing it manually, we are going to paste that IP address, then we change the subnet mask to 224, because that's for /27. Then the default gateway, based on what I've said, it's .1. Okay, so I've used .1 because that's the default gateway which we have selected. So that's the information, guys. So we need to also give information about this second PC which is under cybersecurity. So I'll start off with a label again, then supposed to be .3 based on the question, and they are saying it's a /27, which is 224. Now we know. So again, I'll click on the PC, then under desktop, we go for IP configuration, then we paste. Now you understand what we are doing so far. So the default gateway .1. So for us to confirm if we are really using a /27, just put a cursor and we can see from the address given, say /27. Okay. Now we are done for cybersecurity department. So I can just use a label to say cybersecurity, then department. So these are just labels, they are not necessary. Okay. So now on the question, we also have what we call ICT department, which is connected to the switch. So I'll use a label again to show ICT department. So now after doing that, I just need to configure this laptop 0, which belongs to ICT. So again, let's understand what they did for them to come up with this IP address to the PC. So I'll go for this subnetting. I'm saying we have now ICT. So ICT is a /28 based on the question. So if it's a /28, we need to say where we ended with our subnetting is where we start. So in this case, we ended at 31, so I'll start at 32. Then what's the block size of a /28? Because that's for ICT, we have 16. So I'll say this 16 plus 32, I'm getting 48, but we say -1 to maintain the broadcast, which becomes 47. Now Based on that, we can also come up with a default gateway of our own choice. But as usual, I'll just get the next IP address, which is supposed to be from 32, we have 33. Now, if we can see this, no wonder this device is now .34. So we are going to do that now to put our information. So this laptop, we are saying we are using a label supposed to be .34, and it's a /28. Now, what's the mask for a /28 before we configure? So the mask of a /28, we are saying it's 240. So if the mask is 240, when configuring this laptop and IP configuration, we need to put that information. So we are saying it's 240, that's the mask, then default gateway .33. So here we've done with our configurations. Now I need to connect these devices based on the question under connections. So this copper straight through cable is used to connect different devices. So I'll use the first port of the switch, which is FA0/1 and FA1/0 for the router, at least to make them unique. So again, I'll connect this PC to the switch with the second interface. So let's keep in mind, I won't be showing my connections, but I'll be memorizing. So again, I'll use the third to connect this PC, third port, then the fourth port will belong to ICT, like that. Now, after coming up with this, we can try to understand something before we even implement VLANs. So in this situation, these devices which belong to the same subnet, because they have the same slash or CIDR, which is /27, they have the same subnet mask. It means they belong to the same subnet or same department, as we are seeing for cybersecurity. They must be able to communicate with each other. So I'll give an example. I'll go to PC, this PC which has .2, then under command prompt, I'll write this command, which is ping, which is used to see if I can communicate with another host, such as this one. So I'll write 192.168.10.3, because that's the IP address for this PC, which I want to check if I can communicate. If I click enter, I'll be able to get 4 TTL replies, which are time to live. It means that this device is able to get some replies from this device. It means that they're able to communicate. But the moment I change this subnet mask to something else, such as A/28, it means I'm not in the same department or same subnet, but I'm under a different subnet. So I cannot communicate with such devices. So in this case, let's see if it's true. I'll try if this device can communicate with that device. So I'll say up to bring the previous command, then I'll just put a 4 because this device is .34. So I'll click enter. Now it's not supposed to ping it to say timed out, because there's no possible way that this guy from another subnet can communicate to this guy. In simpler terms, cybersecurity department cannot communicate with the ICT department. But okay, so what we need to do is that at least on this interface of the router, which is FA1/0, we need to insert the default gateway for both the cybersecurity department and ICT department, for them to communicate. So if I click on this router, then I go on that particular interface under config or configurations, I'll go, it says first Ethernet 1/0, because that's the port which is used to which has been used to connect this switch. So I can see that I can only insert a certain IP address and mask for one thing. For example, if I insert for cybersecurity, it means it will only know information about cybersecurity, but what about ICT department? So due to this reason, we cannot put any default gateway of these two networks, but we can switch this interface on like that by saying on. Then we need to create two sub interfaces to represent cybersecurity and ICT department so that they are able to communicate by inserting their default gateways. So that will be done with the help of VLANs. Once we create something which can accommodate two IP addresses or multiple IP addresses, in that case which is a trunk. So now we can start following the question. So the question was saying implement VLANs on switch 0. So I'll be writing the commands using my notepad. So if I'm targeting, so this is question B, by the way. So B, so if I'm targeting a switch, for example, switch 0, let's assume that mean a switch. So if this is the switch we are targeting, which is switch 0, once I enter the command line interface, I need to say en, which will enable us to go from the user mode to the privileged mode. Now, in the privileged mode, we say conft, which is configure terminal, so as for us to go into the global configuration mode and start configuring something such as a VLAN. So, when configuring a VLAN, we need to understand that VLAN 1 belongs to the default. VLAN 1 is the default. So if I put a cursor on this switch, we can see that VLAN 1 is the default. So each and every port under VLAN 1 belongs to the default. So for us to check what I'm talking about, you can simply say en. We go from the user mode to privileged mode, then we say show VLAN because we want to check the VLANs. So once we check the VLANs, we will see that okay, VLAN 1 has all these 24 ports of the switch, including the 2 gigabit ports. So the default is VLAN 1 and each and every port belongs to it, but we don't want to do that. We want at least these two ports, which is FA0/2 and FA0/3, to belong to cybersecurity. Then FA0/4 to belong to ICT department. No wonder we are now trying to create VLANs and assign those ports to its particular VLAN. So since I have seen that, I'll say Ctrl Z, then exit. Okay. Now I'll continue. So after we say conft, I'll say VLAN, because we want to create VLAN. Then I'll give it a number, but not 1. I'll start at 2. So the question was saying VLAN 2 to represent cybersecurity. So I'll say VLAN, then the number will be 2. Enter. Now we need to give it a name. So name will be cybersecurity, because we are saying VLAN 2 to represent cybersecurity, like that. So enter. Now remember, we need to create another VLAN, which is VLAN 3 to represent ICT department. So I'll copy this. Then we are going to create another VLAN, but this time around we are saying VLAN 3. Then we give it a name, which is ICT to represent ICT department. Now, yes, we've created the VLANs. Remember, we talked about assigning the ports to the particular VLAN where it belongs. So I'll start off by targeting cybersecurity. So these ports we are talking about, they are coming from a certain interface of a switch. Therefore, we'll be saying int to represent interface. Then, since they are fast Ethernets, we say FA. Now remember, the first interface, which was FA0/1, went to the router. Then the second interface, which is FA0/2, went to this PC for cybersecurity. So we'll be saying FA0/2 to represent that interface. Now after targeting that interface, it's a switch port. So the next command is switch port. Then we need to select a mode, either access or trunk. So access will be giving access to that port and its particular VLAN where it belongs. Then for trunk, we are trying to create something which can accommodate a lot of IP addresses. So I'll say mode, then the mode we'll select is access, because we want to give access to this particular cyber security department, which is VLAN 2. So I'll say switch port. Now since the mode was access, we need to make sure that it accesses VLAN 2, because VLAN 2 is cyber security. So we're saying this port should access cyber security, which is VLAN 2. This is what we are seeing. So this port, which is FA0/2, is accessing cyber security. But because we have another port which is FA0/3, which is accessing cyber security, I'll need to do that by copying these commands. Then we change the interface to /3, because that port is also accessing cyber security. Then we have this port which is going to the ICT department, which is VLAN 3. So this is FA0/4 based on my decision. So I'm going to do that. So I'll say FA0/4 supposed to access VLAN 3 to represent cyber security. It means that each and every interface has been given access to its rightful VLAN. Now, since we needed at least 2 default gateways to be known at this interface of the router, which was FA1/0, but it's connecting at FA0/1, it means I'll target that FA0/1, which is for the switch, like that. Then this interface is supposed to have a trunk, because we want this line to accommodate at least more than one IP address, such as 2 default gateways, for us to make sure that cyber security and ICT department are able to communicate. So we are putting default gateways because it will help us identifying the network where to deliver the packet for the router. So once these commands are done, we just need to say end, because we are done. Then WR to save our configurations. So once we are done, I'll copy these commands, then enter them into our switch, which is switch 0. So I'll click on the switch, then under the switch I'll just say paste, then enter. So you can see all these commands have been entered directly to our switch. Now if I say show VLAN to check the VLANs, you would see that VLAN 2 and 3 has been created. Then VLAN 2 is cyber security and 2 ports have been assigned to cyber security. As you can see, it's initializing. Then VLAN 3 is ICT and 1 port has been assigned, which is this. Then after that, we also created a trunk here. Now how can we check for a trunk? So first thing we can try to do is we can go under config. Then under config we have what we call VLAN database. So in case I didn't want to create VLANs with commands, I would simply give it a number such as VLAN 4. The name, maybe I'll say James, just an example. Then once I say add, it simply means that I've added this VLAN. But in case I want to assign a port number to this VLAN called James, I would choose a port. For example, we haven't used port 5. I'll choose port 5. Then I'll select that particular VLAN, which is James. So I'll select James like that. Then it means that at that point I've created VLAN 4 and I've assigned an access port, which is port 5, to that particular VLAN. But if it was a trunk, I would just select it from access to trunk. So since that was just an example, I'll remove it from my VLAN database, select, then we remove. So Now let's understand the cyber security has been assigned to port 2 and 3. So we can see the VLAN number is 2, which is correct, and it has access, and port 3 again is VLAN 2. But ICT department has been assigned to 4, so it's VLAN 3, which is correct. Then 1 is for the trunk. As we can see, we have a trunk from this, so we can do that to confirm, or you can simply put a cursor where there is a switch, then the first interface under VLAN, it has 2 dashes. It means that there's a trunk, then 2 interfaces belong to VLAN 2 and 1 interface to VLAN 3. So that one which is saying down, VLAN 4, it was an example for James, so don't consider that. So now, yes, we've created VLANs, but remember, this router needs to know the default gateways under the sub interface of the main interface, which was FA1/0 for these particular departments. So we will now target that router 0 for our next commands. So I'll say router, we are targeting router 0. So once I'm in the router, the first thing again, I'll say en-conft, which I've explained already. Now we need to target this interface, the main interface, which is int for interface FA1/0 from the router connecting the switch. So if we want to put information of the default gateway for cyber security, which is VLAN 2, we need to use this VLAN number, which is 2, as our sub interface to represent .2. So .2, it means we are targeting cyber security. If the VLAN number was 100, well, we could have said .100. Now, after creating the sub interface for cyber security, we need to use a protocol which will allow us to send a packet to the right VLAN. So that protocol to send packets in Cisco, it's encapsulation.1q. So encapsulation, we'll say encapsulation, so .1q. So encapsulation.1q, that's the protocol which encrypts data while sending them. Now we need to put a 2 because we are dealing with VLAN 2, which is cyber security. Then we insert an IP address, which is the default gateway for cyber security. And if you can remember, the default gateway for cyber security based on our decision is that one, which is .1. So I'll put that. Then cyber security is a /27, and if we check, /27 is this one, which is a 224, that's the mask. So I'll get this mask, then I'll put it just after the default gateway like that. Then since I've inserted the IP address, which is the default gateway for cyber security and its mask, I'll end my commands, then save them by saying WR. Now this router at this interface, or at the sub interface of this interface, we have information about cyber security. Now we need to put information about ICT department. So I'll copy these because they will be necessary. Then paste them. So once we paste those commands, we just need to modify. So VLAN 3 represent ICT. So to target VLAN 3, the sub interface will be .3. Then this will change to 3, meaning I'm targeting ICT. Then the default gateway for ICT is 33. Then the mask, since it's a /28, we are saying the mask is 240, like that. So we'll use that information now. So for VLAN 3, default gateway is 33, the mask is 240. So now all the information for cyber security and ICT department will be known at that interface of the router. So now I'll go in the router, then under command line interface, I'm going to paste those commands which were written. So I'll say paste. So once we paste, we can see that, okay, these commands have been now inserted. So if we want to check if these commands have been inserted or the default gateways on the sub interfaces have been inserted, you can just put a cursor, then you can see under first Ethernet 1/0, now we have 1/0.2 and 1/0.3, which represents the sub interfaces of the main interface, and they have default gateways of that particular those departments. Now it means that this device from cybersecurity can communicate with the ICT department. So to do that, we're going to go back on our command prompt from a PC from cybersecurity, then ping this device, which is .34 for ICT department. Say up, then once I ping, since we are from configuring, it will start first with timed out, then it will start working. So as we can see, it's working. I'll say up, then repeat it to show you that it has successfully managed to ping. So we've used commands here and commands to make that successful. So the question was saying paste screenshots of your commands in a Word document. This is 5 marks. So this is how you do it. You show in a switch used this and this, so those are the commands. Then we are done, 5 marks. So see, make sure the cybersecurity and ICT departments are able to communicate. So to do that, we used this device for cybersecurity, then we pinged this laptop for ICT department, and so that we are able to communicate. So they are saying paste screenshot into a Word document. So you just paste that screenshot of your ping. So that's the screenshot, as you can see. So this is the screenshot. So do it like that. Then let's proceed. So we have question D. So under question D, they are saying using the IP addressing scheme shown below. So we have this. Configure OSPF routing on routers 0, 1 and 2. So first of all, let's understand what's OSPF. So given this topology, if this device wanted to communicate with this device using OSPF, OSPF stands for Open Shortest Path First. So a message or a packet can come from this device, then instead of taking the longer route, which is that, it's going to take the shortest route or path, which is this, to communicate with this device when sending a message. So that's the meaning for OSPF. So we are trying to insert it on router 0, 1 and 2. So since I only have router 0, I need to go under network devices, then I need to drag my PT router based on the question to represent router 1 and 2. Okay, so now after doing that, we just need to connect them as shown in the diagram. So under connections, we use copper crossover to connect same devices. So same devices such as routers, we use this cable. So I'll go for Ethernet 0/0. Even here I'll go for fast Ethernet 0/0 to make them unique. Then if I want to connect like this, we will realize that using a PT router you cannot connect on this interface. So we will need to increase the interfaces by clicking on that router such as router 0. Then under physical, we are going to switch off the router first. Then we are going to drag this third interface into those empty ports so that we increase the port numbers. Then we say on. Then we do the same for this PT router 1 and D2. So we switch it off, then we drag this third port, which is representing Ethernet connections or ports, then on. So we continue doing that even for router 2. So you need so off. You need to be familiar with these things. before even think of answering the questions, because they will be helpful for you to come up with a smooth topology. So once we are done, now I'll get my cable again. So I'll connect this on first Ethernet 6/0. Even this, it will be 6/0 to make them unique. That's what I like. So even here we say 7/0, then here 7/0. Now to show you that I can remember, this is 0/0, this is 6/0, this is 7/0. Now we can proceed. So we need to insert an IP address in these routers before even starting configuring protocols such as OSPF, because for something to communicate, it needs an IP address. So routers are treated as two hosts each. So if we go back to our VLSM table, this block size, which is 4 or /30 or with a mask of 252, it can accommodate two hosts each, such as router 0 and 1, because if we say we need to subtract 2 from the block size to get the number of usable hosts, we say 4 minus 2, which is 2, to come up with two IP addresses for router 0 and 1. So we are saying minus 2 because we need to subtract the network and broadcast address, which we don't use when assigning IP addresses. Now, since we understand that, this is how they came up with the subnetting. So they are subnetting for two hosts each. So subnetting between router 0 and 1, the IP address for router 0 is .81. So I'm going to go under router 0. So remember, router 0 and 1 is connected at FA0/0. So under config, I'll go where it says 0/0. Then I'm going to put this address, which is 192.168.10.81, because we are saying router 0 has given an IP address of 81 between 0 and 1. So their mask is 252, as I shown you, because it has a block size of 4, which can accommodate two things for the routers. So by doing that, I just need to switch on that interface by saying on. So between 0 and 1, 1 has an IP address which is .82 at the end. So I'll click on router 1. Then under router 1, under config, I'll go at 0/0, which is connecting to router 0. Then put 82, which is the given IP address for router 1. Then say 252 and on for this interface to be up like that. So from red, it's now green. So we continue the process like that. So remember, 0 and 2 is connecting at 6/0. So between 0 and 2, 0 is given .85. So I'll go where the 0, then the interface is this, which has a 6 to connect to router 2. So I'll say 85, then it's 252, and we say on, it's okay. Then we are saying 80. Now we are going to put 86 to represent 2 between 0 and 2, but at 6/0, because that's the interface which is connecting 0 and 2. So we are going to go at the 6, and then we are going to put 86, because that's the given IP for router 2. So now it's on, you can see. Then we have between 1 and 0, which is connecting at 7/0. So between 1 and 2, we are saying 1 is given .89. So under that interface which I've mentioned, which is 7, I'm going to put 89. Then 252 is okay. We just say on. So we are saying for 2, between 1 and 2, we have 90, but the interface is 7/0. Now we know. I'm going to put 90 like that. Then we say 252 and on for it to be on. Now after doing that, it means we can now follow up that question, which is following, which said configure OSPF for router 0, 1 and 2, which is 9 max. So this is 0. I'll first start off targeting router 0. So that's question D. So that's question D1. D1, like that, question D1. So for question D1, I'll target router 0. So this router 0 which I've targeted, we are going to put OSPF. So once we are under the command line interface for router 0, say enconft, that I've explained. Now we need to insert router OSPF because we are using a router. So I'll say router OSPF, which is the protocol. Now we need to select a number from 1 up to anything. So I'll say 1. So that's the number I've given to my OSPF. Now in OSPF we just need to advertise the network we are connected to. So since we are targeting router 0, router 0 is connected to cybersecurity, which is the first network, then ICT department, which is the second network, then it's also connected to router 1, which is the third network, then it's connecting to router 2, which is the fourth network. So we are going to broadcast 4 networks. So I'll say network. So once I say network, I need to know the network address for a particular thing, such as cybersecurity. So based on our subnetting, the cybersecurity, the network address is .0. So I'm going to get that network to represent cybersecurity. Then I need to put the broadcast bit. So it will depend on the class of an IP. Since this is a class C, this part won't change, which is 192.168.10. So this portion will be represented by zeros. This will be a 0, 0, and this will be a 0. So I'll put 3 zeros to represent that portion. Now this worst portion needs to have a broadcast, so that will depend on the block size. So what's the block size of /27 for cyber security? So as we can see, the block size for /27 is 32. So if 32 is the block size, its broadcast, as we can see, will be 31, because I need to subtract a 1 to maintain this broadcast. So I'll say 31 due to that reason. Then I need to insert this in a certain area. So I'll say area. So an area, it can start at 0 or any other given number. So for this one, I'll just say area 0. So it means I'm broadcasting this network, which is this, and I'm only broadcasting 30 IP addresses which can be used, because below 31 we have 30 going down up to all the way to what? And not 0, because 0 is the network, but all the way to 1. So I'm broadcasting IP addresses from .1 up to .30 for this network, which makes sense because we need to broadcast those IP addresses for us to communicate with other guys via computer network. So we've broadcasted for cybersecurity. Now we need to broadcast for ICT, which is connected to router 0. I'll get this command. I've explained it, so now I'll be trying to go fast. So we need to identify the network where this belongs for ICT department. Remember, we said its network for ICT was .32, as you can see. Then its broadcast is so the broadcast it's going to be known because of block size. So let me just say we have 32, which is the network, which is correct. Now for us to know the broadcast, we need to come where the /28 for ICT. So /28 has a block size of 16. So we need to say -1 for us to know the number of IP addresses we can broadcast. So 16 minus 1, we have a 15. So I'm going to put a 15 here. Now after doing that, it means we can only broadcast 15 IP addresses starting at instead of 32, but starting at 33, then ending up to 47. Because if I add that number 32 plus 15, which are broadcasting, we are getting this 47. So that's the meaning. So router 0 has managed to broadcast these two networks, now we need to broadcast this network. So what's the network between 0 and 1? Based on this subnetting between 0 and 1, we can see that okay, it's .80, that's their network. So I'm going to paste that. So .80 is the network between 0 and 1. I'll put an 80. And then remember the block size, because this subnetting is between routers, the block size of routers was 4. So if the block size was 4, I need to subtract a 1 to come up with a 3, which can broadcast only 2 IP addresses. So now the last connection is between 0 and 2. So what's the network address between 0 and 2? As we can see, it's 84. So I'll just copy this. Okay, I'll put 84. It means router 0 has broadcasted the IP address or the networks it knows. So I'll end the commands, then save them by WR. Then once we are done, it means we have understood router OSPF. So this is just for router 0. I'll copy that, then paste them into router 0. So under command line interface for router 0, now we don't need this. I'll say exit up to bring the previous command, another exit, then I'll just need to paste. So once I paste, for me to check if I've configured this router OSPF, I'll just say show, then run, more like show running config. So I need to enter to the point where I see whatever I'm from configuring. So router OSPF 1, which is log adjacency, has been configured, and it's okay, correct. So I'll leave it the way it is. Now the question, remember, it was saying we need to configure it between on router 0, 1 and 2. So our next target is router 1. So let's see which networks does router 1 knows. So router 1 is directly connected to router 0, router 4 and router 3. So we can only, or router 2, so we can only broadcast for router 1 3 networks, because it only knows 3 networks, and those networks are just routers. So without wasting time, we're targeting router 1, and we can only broadcast 3 things which are just routers. So here supposed to be .3 because I'm targeting only routers. Okay, now let's see the networks. So between router 1 and 0, this connection, which is 0 and 1, the network is 80. So I'll leave 80 because 80 can be broadcasted, it's okay. Then between 1 and 2, we have 88. So I'll change this number to 88. We need to broadcast that network. The last between 1 and 4, I need to broadcast that network. So here's the subnetting. Between 1 and 4, we have 96. So I'll just put 96. So it means we've broadcasted those which are known by 1. We started that saying we have 80, which is here. Then here again we have 88, which is there. Then a 96, which is just this here. So we've broadcasted those networks. As we can see now, it's more like we are faster because I've explained and we are just copying the commands. So I'll go to router 1, then under command line interface, I'm going to paste those commands. So exit this up to bring the previous command, then exit, then you paste those new commands like that. Okay, so once we do that, we need to configure now OSPF on router 2. So let's see how many networks can router 2 broadcast. So now this is router 2. Router 2 is connected to router 0, 1, router 1, so becomes connection 1, connection 2, then to router 3, which is connection 3. Then again it's connected to this switch for this network. So it can broadcast how many networks? 1, 2, 3, 4. So because it can broadcast 4 networks, I'll copy this, then we need to represent router 2. So the first network it can broadcast is between 0 and 2. So between 0 and 2 we have 84, that's the network. So I'm going to put 84, but it's because it's between routers, I'll just put .3 here. Then the next network is between 2 and 1 or 1 and 2. So between 1 and 2 we have 88. So I'm going to put 88, and because they're routers I'll just say .3. Then now we have this network between 2 and 3. So between 2 and 3 the network is 92. So I'm going to put 92. So .3 here because it's a routers, correct. Then the last network is between this router and this network. So since the default gateway for this one, which is /29, is .33, let's understand the subnetting before I continue. So we are saying we have what we call DINS department. So if we have DINS department, and we are saying it's a /29, we need to continue where we ended with our subnetting. So because we had ended at 47, it meant to say we're supposed to start at 48. Oh, by the way, okay, let me see. Okay, yeah, 48. So we needed to start at 48 for our subnetting, right? So if we're starting at 48, what's /29? But if we can see, this is not close to 48. It means the network which they subnetted is for this one, which is /28, and at least it has a 50, it's close to 48. So we are saying this is supposed to be the admins department. So it's a /28. Now if we are starting at 48, if we check a /28, the block size is 16. So 16 plus 48, what's the answer? If I put it 50, so plus the remaining 14, 64. So we have in 64. So we have in 64. If I say -1, we're supposed to have 63. So this is going to represent the admins. Then let's see the default gateway. The default gateway can be 49. No wonder this 49 as the default gateway, and an IP address for this device for admin is .50. Now it makes sense. Okay, so remember we want to see how they came up with the DINS. So now I'll target the DINS department. I'll say DINS. So the DINS department, if we ended at 63, it means we start at 64. So again, we're not close to 73. So it means it's this network which is accounts. So I'll say accounts department. So accounts department, we are saying /29. So I'll say /29. So here we ended at 63. So it means that we are starting at 64, like that. We ended at 63. So here we are starting at 64. So what's the block size of /29? So a /29 has a block size of 8. So we are saying 8 plus 64, which is 72. So I'll just say 71 after I say -1 to maintain the broadcast. Then the default gateway after 64 we can have 65. No wonder for the accounts we are seeing that this device is .66. Now we are coming closer to this one, which is the DINS. So I'll copy this. Okay, now this is for the DINS. Sorry for taking long to explain this. So DINS, DIN we are saying is a /29. We are saying a DN/29. So if DN/29 we ended at 72, we can start at or we can start at 72 because we ended at 71. Now, what's the block size of /29? As we said, it was 8, like this. So if the block size is 8, we say 72 plus 8, we are getting 80, but I'll say 79 after subtracting 1 to maintain the broadcast. Now, the default gateway 72 should be 73, which is this, and that's what we are seeing on the question. So it's a 73. They inserted the default gateway because we are talking about a wireless router. So a router needs to have a default gateway, and the wireless router will just insert that. So that's the meaning. So if this is the network, it means if this is the default gateway, it means their network is .72, like that. So I'll go back now. I was explaining. So it means this router is connected to this network, which is .72. So here I'll put 72. So since it's 72, and I know the block size is 8 because of /29, as we saw when I was explaining. So we are going to remove a 3 but put a 7, because 8 minus 1 is 7 to put its broadcast. So by doing that, it means that router 2 is now done broadcasting the networks it knows. So I'm just going to copy this, then paste it into router 2, like that. So we just need to paste. So once we are done, we can go on simulation mode. Then under simulation mode, we can try to ping something with a packet. I'll put a packet, then see if it can go up to here. So if a packet can reach that side, it means that OSPF has been configured nicely. So I can pray now. So let's see how the packet is moving. So supposed to reach this point, it means that okay, everything is okay based on our configurations. So if that is okay, our job is done here. So the question was saying, paste screenshots of your commands into a Word document. So since that is question D, so question D1 for OSPF, you just show that okay, for router 0, these are the commands, router 1, router 2, those are the commands, like that. So you've shown that's how you need to answer. You can proceed. So question D2, we are saying configure static routing on router 0, 2, and 3. So far we have router 0, 2, but we don't have router 3. So let me go back to my topology. So router 3 is here. So it's a PT router again. I'll get a PT router to represent router 3, like that. But it's connected to a switch, so I need the switch. So I'll put a switch there. Then again, a switch is connected to a PC, so I need a PC. So I'll drag a PC like that. So after putting this, we need some connections. So we have a serial connection which represents a wide area network. So under connections, I'll get a serial connection, then I'll use serial 2 and here serial 2 to make them unique. Then I'll use FA 1/0 and 0/1 to make them unique for these two guys, like that. Then here I'll use the second port from the switch to connect to this device. Now because we don't need VLANs on this switch, I can simply get the default gateway for this guy and insert it on this interface. So first of all, we need to configure that PC. So the IP address we are saying based on the question, it's 192.168.10.66 So .66 we are saying that's /29 based on the question. Now what's /29? If you can remember, /29 we are saying the default gateway is 248. So if we see this department is accounts, so for accounts we have the default gateway of 65. So that information is very much important to us. So I'm going to go on this switch PC, then under desktop PC configuration I'll paste that given IP address. Then we are saying /29 is 248, then its default gateway is 65, based on the things I'm from showing you, which is this. Okay, then we have configured it like that. So under this interface, which is FA1/0, which is connecting to the switch, we need to put information of the default gateway for this particular network. So the interface which is connecting to the switch is FA1/0. So I'll put .65, then 248, because this is the default gateway information of this network. Then I'll say on for that connection to be on. Now I need to see the subnetting between router 2 and router 3 so that I give them IP addresses. So between 2 and 3, router 2 is .93. So I'll go under, remember this is serial 2, I'll go under serial 2 and put 93 for router 2. So I'll click on router 2, then under config we go at serial 2, then we put 93, which will represent that thing. So it's 252 because the routers on. Then we need to put .94 to represent router 3 because between router 2 and 3. So I'm going to put under CO2 because that's the connection. Then we'll say 94. Then we need to change it to 252 because these are routers and on. So now that everything is okay, we can start talking about our next thing, which is static. So before we even go to static, we need to remember one thing. Here we have OSPF, but here we don't have any protocol. So let me just say, since this is accounts, let me show accounts department. Okay, so if a device from cybersecurity or ICT wanted to see if they can communicate with this department, which is the accounts department, and they are using .66, it cannot be possible yet because we don't have a protocol here, routing protocol. So if I click enter to say destination host unreachable, because I don't have any protocol here configured, no wonder now we are going to talk about static. So static, they are saying we configure to router 0, 2 and 3. So this is router 0, 2 and 3. So I'll explain this. So if we are targeting router 0, we need to know the opposite networks for router 0. So since router 0 is directly connected to these networks, which is cybersecurity and ICT, these are not opposite networks because it's directly connected. Therefore, the opposite network can be this router because it's not directly connected to this. Then another opposite can be this department because it's not directly connected to that. So based on that, we are going to use that theory to insert the commands. So we are at question D2. So question D2. So we are trying to target router 0. So since we are targeting router 0, we start off with enconft under the command line interface. Then since you're talking about static, so static is also a routing protocol. So it will be router, we are inserting it in a router, then RIP for routing information protocol. Then we need to select version. We say version 1 because static is version 1, then version 2 is dynamic. So for static is version 1, we say version 1. Now, since I was saying if we're targeting router 0, we need to know the opposite networks such as router 3 because it's not directly connected to router 0 and accounts department. So for us to first reach router 3, we need to go to take this route from 0 to 2, then up to 3. So we need to insert that route by saying IP, the route. So what's our destination? Our destination is router 2. So router or router 3. So because router 3 is closely to router 2, I'll go where there is a subnetting between 2 and 3. So between 2 and 3, we want to know the network for this 3. So the network between 2 and 3 is 92. So I'll say we are trying to go to 192.168.10.92. But what's the mask for this network? Remember the routers, it will be 255.255.255.252. Now, where are we passing for us to reach router 3? We are passing at router 2. So router 2, basically between the subnetting of 2 and 3, it's 93.93. So we're going to say 192.168.10.93. Now after doing that, we are going to put the 150 at the end for static. So we have created the first route we can take for us to reach to the opposite network. Now the next network which is not directly connected to 0 is this accounts. So I'm going to paste that route. Then I'll ask myself, what's the network address for accounts department? So based on the subnetting we have, we are saying accounts, the network is .64. This is the network. So because of that network, I'm going to change the 92 to 64 because that's the network. Then what's the mask for accounts department? We are saying /29. So a mask for a /29, we are going to check here. So it's 248 as we can see. So I'm going to change it 252 to 248 because that's the mask for that thing, 248. Then where are we passing from router 0 to reach accounts? We are basically passing at router 3. So router 3 is closely to router 2. So the subnetting between 2 and 3, what's the IP address for 3? So between 2 and 3, the IP address for 3 is .94. So I'm going to put a 94. It means I've created two routes which I can take to reach to my opposite networks for router 0. By doing that, I'm going to end this, then save the commands by saying WR. So now we can copy these commands and insert them into router 0 under the command line interface. So copy, then I'll go where there's router 0. So this is router 0. Then I'm going to paste the commands. Okay, so once we are done doing that, again, if you want to check if the commands are there, just say show run as we did for OSPF. So okay, now if we didn't want to configure static in router 0 like that using commands, we just simply click on the router 0. Then under config, we'll go ahead, it says routing. Now there are two types, which is static, which is version 1, then RIP is dynamic, which is version 2. We are talking about static, so click on static. Then here we can simply add our opposite network, its mask, and where we are passing, which is next to. Then we add for us to come up with this. So that's what you can do if you don't want to use commands. Okay, so it was saying we need to configure OSPF on router 0, 2, and 3. So our next target is router 2. So I'll simply copy these commands, then target router 2. So I'll say router 2. Now let's check the topology again. So router 2, as you can see, this is router 2, is directly connected to router 0 and router 3. So these are not opposite networks, but the opposite network can be cyber security and ICT department, because they are not directly connected to router 2, and the last one can be accounts department. So we need to put 3 routes, because we have 1, 2 and 3, as I've said. So I'll add another route by copying this route like that. Then I'll start modifying now. So for us to go from router 2 to cyber security, we need to pass at router 0, but our destination is cyber security. So what's the network for cyber security? So again, I'll check from here. So it's .0, that's the network. So it's a /27. So /27, its mask, we are saying 224 here. So we have network which is 0, which we want to target. So I'll put a 0 here, because we are going to cyber security. Then we are saying the mask is 224. Now we are passing at router 0 before we reach cyber security. Now what's the subnetting between 0 and 2? What's their network address? So between 0 and 2, their network is 84, but the IP address for router 0, which is our route, is between 0 and 2 is 85. So I'm going to put an 85 here, because I'm going in that direction. Now I'm not just passing at router 0 once, but 2 times, because I need to visit the ICT department. So again here I'll put 85 for that. Then what's the network and mask for ICT? So I'll go where there's ICT department. The network, as we can see, is 32. Since the mask is /28, we need to understand that it's a 240. So network 32, then mask 240. So I'll do that. Mask, we are saying 240, the network 32. Now the last thing we need to do is for this router to go to this accounts department. So what's the network and the mask for this, for the accounts? So network address for the accounts, we are saying it's .64. Then since, because it's a /29, the mask will be 248, like that. So network 64, mask 248. So network 64, mask 248. Then since I'm at this router, I want to pass to reach here. I'm passing at router 3. So what's the subnetting between 2 and 3? So the subnetting between 2 and 3 is this. Then what's the IP address of 3 between them? We are given 94. So I'm going to put a 94, which is correct. Then we are going to copy these commands and insert them into router 2, because we are targeting router 2. So make sure you pay attention to this explanation, because it might sound easy, but it's a little bit tricky. So we do that, we paste the commands. Now we are just remaining to configure router 3. So router 3 is directly connected to accounts department, but the opposite networks can start, because this is directly connected again, can start at router 0, then cyber security and the ICT department, 3 of them. So let's do that. I'll copy this. So we are saying router 3. So router 3, the first opposite network is router 0, but router 0 is close to router 2. So what's the air network between 0 and 2? So as we can see, it's 84. So here I'll put an 84 like that. Then after putting 84, the mask between routers, we say it's 252. Then from 3, for me to reach 0, I'm passing at 2. And 2, between 0 and 2 is given an IP address, which is so when for me to reach here, I need to consider the IP address between 2 and 3. And what's the IP address of 2? So the IP address of 2 between 2 and 3, we are saying it's 93. So here I'm going to put a 93 like that. Then again, for me to reach cyber security and the ICT department, I need to pass at router 0. But since I know I'm going to cyber security, which is .0, its network, I'll just put .0. Then ICT, which is .32. For now we know, just put 32. Then the mask, which is /27 for cyber security, which is .0, is 224. So I'll change this to 224. Then again, the mask, which is /28 for ICT, is just 240. I'll change this to 240. Now for router 3 to reach those networks, we need to pass at router 0. What's the IP address of router 0 between 0 and 2? So between 0 and 2, the IP address is 85 for router 0. So I'm going to put 85 and here 85 for me to pass at that particular route. Then copy these commands like that. So I'll paste them into the command line interface of router 3. Then we say paste. So once we are done, let's follow the question. Is saying, where's the question? So the question is saying, paste screenshots of your commands into a Word document, 6 marks. Because you have used 3 commands. So for static, this is the first one. For router 0, you indicate. Then for router 2, you indicate. And then for router 3, you indicate like that. Okay. So once we are done, we have another question which says make sure the cyber security and or ICT department, which is these guys or these guys, are able to communicate with the accounts department. So we are saying these guys should be able to communicate with this guy. So I'll simply choose any PC such as this one. Then under command prompt, I'll say up to bring the previous command where I tried to see if I can communicate with this guy from that guy. So I'll say enter. Remember at first it refused, but because we've configured these things, it must now work out for us. So if it's not working out, it means somewhere we made the mistake and we need to revisit our work. But there's no mistake. If we try again, we can see that now we are able to communicate. So if we want to use a message, we can simply do this. We go under simulation, then we take a packet, we insert it on this guy, then to that guy, and we pray to see on how it can go. So we can see if the packet can go to that particular destination. So already with the ping, we've shown that we were able to communicate. So it's saying, so as you are watching the packet, I can read out. It was saying paste a screenshot into a Word document, which is now 1 mark for this particular ping. So I'll go back to real time because you can see we have reached. Okay, so the screenshot you're talking about is supposed to look like this. So you show like that, that's a screenshot. So let's proceed. So now we have using the IP address scheme shown below, which is this, configure RIP version 2 on all routers because it can update its routing tables automatically, reducing the work of the administrator who needs to update the tables manually. So as we can see, for static, we had to configure the route to take to a certain destination manually. But for RIP version 2, which is dynamic, it's automatic because you just need to broadcast that particular network, that's all. And it can update its tables based on that. So since it says we configure it on all routers, I need to revisit the topology again, and I can see I have another router which is router 4. So it's a PT router again. I'll drag PT router which is representing router 4 like that. Then it's connected to a switch, so I need the switch. So I'll get the switch, put the switch there. Then that switch is connecting to a PC, which is this. So I'll put a PC like that. And then we have a wide area connection with a serial cable. So under the connection, I'm going to get a serial cable, then connect under serial 2 and here serial 2 again to make them unique. Then I'm going to connect to FA1/0 and FA0/1 to make them unique between the router and the switch. Then we are going to connect this switch at the second port to this PC like that. Now we just need to indicate that this is Dean's department, admin's department. So we are going to indicate that with a label, which is this. So we are going to say admin's department. So we just put admin's department like that. So after doing that, we need to insert the given IP address, which is that. So remember, the given IP address is 192.168.10.50. Now it says /28. So back to our subnetting. We are talking about admin's department. So the admin departments, as you can see, we are saying they are using a default gateway of .49. Since it says /28, we are saying their mask is 240. So that information is needed for us to configure this PC. So I'll click on that. Then under desktop IP configuration, we are going to put this IP address which is given. Then we are saying 240 because it's /28. Then the mask, we are saying .49 based on the things I'm from showing you, which is this 240. Then for the admin, we are saying 49 for the mask. So understanding that we've configured, now we need to insert the default gateway at this interface connecting to this switch for this account, for this department or subnet, because this interface needs to be up. So under config, we have used FA1/0 to connect to the switch. I'm going to put .49, which is the default gateway, and we are saying 240 because it was /28 for us to make sure that this interface is up. Then we need the subnetting of 1 and 4 to make this interface up, just like shown here. So I'm going to go where there is that subnetting between 1 and 4, which is this. Then 1 is given .97. So remember, the interface we are targeting is serial 2 because that's the connection we have used. So under serial 2, we are going to put 97 to represent this connection. Now between routers, we are saying 252 and we say on because those are routers 2 stitch. So 98 to represent router 4 under serial connection, which is /2. So 98, then we need to say 252 because that's the main thing. Yeah, on. Now we can see it's up, so we can now proceed to the question. So after doing that, we wanted to configure RIPv2 on all those routers. So I'm not talking about a wireless router because we cannot configure such things on wireless routers, you know. So now our job is to configure RIPv2. So this is question what? Let me see. So this is question E1. Question E1. Okay, so since we start off by targeting router 0, we know we need to put them, we put the things on all the routers, but I'll start off by targeting router 0. So en conft, this we know. Now, okay, so since we are configuring a routing protocol in a router, again we start router because we are using a router, then RIP for routing information protocol. Now, instead of saying version 1 such as for static, this is for version 2, but for now I'll write it at the end. I just need to understand what version 2 is all about. So version 2 or dynamic RIP version 2 is all about you broadcasting the IP addresses for the networks, you know. So for example, we are targeting router 2. Router 2 knows about cyber security, ICT department, router 1 and router 2 because they are directly connected. So we'll start by broadcasting for cyber security. So we'll say network. So the network want to broadcast for cyber security, remember, it's 192.168.10.0. That's their network. Then after we broadcast this network, we need to target the next network to broadcast, which is for ICT department, which is .32. After doing that, we need to broadcast the network between this 0 and 1. So between 0 and 1, we have a network of .80. So we are going to put 80 there. Then the last network is between router 0 and 2, which is .84. So since I've broadcasted those networks which router 0 knows, we just say version 2 because you're talking about dynamic or RIP version 2. Then we say no auto summary. So this is a negative command. Now we can end, then save our configurations by saying WR. So this one is simple. So we can now copy these and paste them into our targeted router, which is 0, under command line interface. So CLI, which is this, we are going to paste those things like that. So in case you didn't want to use this as a way of configuring without commands, you can just go under config, then routing, we go for RIP, which is dynamic. Then you just need to add the networks, you know. You put a network, you add, you put a network, you add, you put a network, you add, like that. So after doing that, we need to target now router 1 because remember we are trying to broadcast to each and every router. So up to router 4. So far we have done one router, which is router 0. So the second router is router 1. So what networks are router 1 connected to? We have this network, that network, and that network, only 3. So I'll get rid of one network such as that to remain with 3. So what's the network between 1 and 0? So 0 and 1, we are saying 80. So I'll leave 80 the way it is, it's okay. Now between 1 and 2, so between 1 and 2, we have a network of 88. So I will say 88, like that. 8, I said it was okay. Then the last one, is between 1 and 4. So what's the network between 1 and 4? So it's 96. So as we can see, it's 96. So I'll put 96. At that point, it means router 1 knows the information or as broadcasted the IP addresses it knows. So we are going to paste under the command line interface for this same router. So we'll say exit, we don't want that, exit and exit, so that we just paste them direct. So we are done. So let's go to router 2. So now we're going to router 2. So for router 2, we just need to advertise the networks it knows. So this is router 2. So router 2 is connected to this network. So we are going to count 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we need 4 networks to broadcast. So I'll just add 4. So we need 4 networks like that to be broadcasted. So what's the network between 0 and 2? This network between 0 and 2. So between 0 and 2 we have 84. I'm going to say 84. Then between 2 and 1 or 1 and 2 we have 88 like that. So 88 is just okay. Then between 2 and 3, between 2 and 3 we have 92. So I'm going to put 92. Now this other network which is going to the wireless router, remember 72, 73 is just that 40, we are going to put 72. So it means router 2 has broadcasted whatever networks it knows, and we just need to paste those commands into router 2. So here we are, just going to say paste, then we are done. Target router 3, we are almost done. We target router 3. So I'll copy this, then target router 3. So router 3 is only connected to 2 things, router 2 and accounts department. So I'll just leave 2 things, get rid of this. So the connection between 2 and 3, we are saying it's 92. So 92 is just okay. But the connection which is going to accounts department, this we said it was 64, which was the network for the accounts. Okay, so those are the things we can only broadcast. I'll copy and go to router 3, then broadcast them under the command line interface by pasting. We are done. Then the last router, which is router 4. So again, let me just copy these commands, or these commands. We go to router 4, which is the last one. So router 4 is only connected to router 1 and the admin's account. So what's the connection between 1 and 4? So between 1 and 4, I know it's 96. So between 1 and 4 is 96. So I'm going to put 96. We've broadcasted. And since we are saying it's connected to the router 4 is connected to, that means this was 48. That's the network. Because 49 was the default gateway and 50 for this PC. So 48 was their network. So I just need to broadcast this. So we paste the commands into the command line interface for router 4. I'll be exiting this, I don't want it. Then we paste like that. Done. So let me see. It was saying paste screenshots of your command into a Word document, 10 marks. So remember, I'm showing you how to do it. This is for router 0, you show. For router 1, you show. For router 2, you show. For router 3, you show. And for router 4, you're done. So We are saying make sure that cybersecurity and ICT department are able to communicate with the admins department. So we are saying these guys should be able to communicate with this guy, which is .50. So I'll come to this device and see if I can do that. I'll say I'll ping .50 because the admin is .50. So from configuring, I'll give it some time. If it works out, it's supposed to give me time to leave replies. So it has worked out. I can repeat it. You can see it's working. So since we've done that, we need to continue the question. Also, the admin department should be able to communicate with the accounts department. So this guy should be able to communicate with the .66, which is this guy. So I'll come to this guy under command prompt. I'll say ping 192.168.10.66 to see if I can communicate with the accounts. And yeah, it's working. So they are saying paste screenshots of your commands into a Word document. Oh, paste screenshots of your command into a Word document, 2 marks. So we show those 2 ping commands, this first one and the second one, like that. We are done. So let's proceed. So we are now at question F. So question F says configure the wireless router with the WPA personal. So far on my topology don't have the wireless router. So there is the wireless router. We need to go under network devices, wireless devices, then we are getting 300N based on the question. So I'll drag router, which is 300N, then put it here like that. Then it's connected to a switch, so I would need the switch, represent switch 3. So this is the switch. Then again we need the cable modem. So here I'll get a cable modem and press it there. Then we need the crowd, a PT crowd, then we press it here. Then after doing that, we just need a server under end devices. So we are going to put a server like that. Now after the server, we have a laptop which is supposed to connect wirelessly. I'll put laptop. So the IP address for wireless router, remember, is the default gateway, which is 192.168, then .10.73. Now here they are saying this is a /29. So we need to keep that in mind. We go back to our subnetting. So our subnetting for that, which is the Dean's department, we are saying the default gateway is .73, quite alright, but /29 has a block size of 8 and it's 248. So I'll keep track of the block size, which is 8, and the mask, which is 248. So I'll click on this wireless router. Then after doing that, we'll go under graphical user interface, GUI. Then I'll put .10 here, then .73 because that's the default gateway we are given. I'll select the mask to be 248 based on our subnetting. Then since we've already started at 73, we can put our start at as 74. Then our block size was 8, so 8 minus 2 to know the number of usable hosts is 6, so I'll just put a 6. Then save my settings like that. So the range can be from 74 to 79. If we confirm, if it's true, we go under the Deans, then we see that we can end to 79 like that, which is cool. Okay, so let me follow up the question now. We are saying we also have an IP address for this server, which is 192.168.10, then .20, by the way, .20.2, and they're telling us to say that it's a /24. So what we need to understand about that is the slash. So a/24 has a mask of .0 at the end, so we need to keep track of the mask before configuring. So we'll come back to this server, then under desktop IP configuration, we're going to put the IP address which is given, then leave with .0 for the mask. The default gateway can be .1. So like that, keep track of this information. So that we've done. Now we just need to connect these guys as they are looking on the question. I'll go under connections, then I'll connect this router on 1/0 to the switch on 1/0/1. Then I'll connect this switch to the wireless router using Ethernet 1 because we are using Ethernet, or it can be 2, anything you want. Then I need to connect the cable modem on the wireless router using the internet because we would like to access the server through the internet using this Ethernet port 1. So by doing that, we need also a coaxial cable to connect on port 0 of the cable modem and the coaxial port, which is coaxial 7 of the cloud. Now, after doing that, we need to use the Ethernet connection at Ethernet 6 of the cloud and the Ethernet port of the server, like that, to make those connections that you are seeing. So let me just use a label to say this is the DINS department, like that. So now let's follow up the question and see what it was saying. I've made my things look nice. So configure wireless router with WPA person. So I'll click on this wireless router, then under graphical user interface, I'll go where it says wireless, then I'll go where it says wireless security, then select WPA person as the question says. Then we are saying SSID name was KMU Wi-Fi and set the passphrase as reverse from 9 to 1. So the passphrase is in reverse, which is 987654321. Then we save. After saving these settings, we'll go back to the basic settings and put the SSID name as KMU, then Wi-Fi. KMU Wi-Fi, then we save this. So it means once we do that, we follow this question. Now it's saying connect laptop 1 to the KMU Wi-Fi for the staff member using the laptop to access the internet. So we'll go under laptop 1, then under physical, we switch off this laptop, remove this port, then we need to add the port of this wireless router, which is 300N, which is this. We drag it, then we switch on our PC, then under desktop we'll go for PC wireless, then I'll need to connect. Once I see KMU Wi-Fi, I need to connect to that, then I'll say connect, then the passphrase is 987654321, then we just connect. So we can see now the connection is up. So that question, which has 2 marks, we have done it. Paste screenshot of your current topology in a Word document. So we do that, we screenshot, then we paste like that. So once you do this, it means that you've earned your 2 marks. But remember, at first I'd skipped these 5 marks, which was talking about creating designing a topology. Now at this point we have successfully earned that mark. Okay, so now since we have earned this mark, we can do the last and final question. So the DINS department, which is this, as a server that is used to keep records for both ICT and cybersecurity students, this server. So the above network was designed to make sure that only the DIN can access the server and no other department, to increase the level of security. It means these deans are able to access this server, but the accounts, ICT, cybersecurity, and admins department cannot access this. So therefore, make sure that ping between the dean's laptop and server is successfully formats. So before we even try to ping, we need to understand one thing. This wireless router doesn't know the information about this server which is over the internet. So we can see it's .20.2. If I try to ping that with this laptop of the dean by saying ping 192.168.20.2, it will say destination host unreachable because it doesn't know information about that thing over the internet. So I'll click on this wireless router, then under config, I'll go where it says internet because I want to access the internet. I'll choose static, then I'll put the IP address such as 192.168.20, which is over the internet. Instead of .2 for the server, I'll say .3 to present this router. Then the mask is /24, which is okay. Then the default gateway was .1 for that particular server, and the DNS server is .2. So by doing this, it means now the router has information about this guy over the internet. So if I go back to my laptop 1 and see if I'm able to communicate with that particular server, it needs to work out because now it knows information of that thing which is over the internet. So let's just give it a little bit of time, then it needs to work out. So if it works out, it means okay. So one thing is remaining. So we need to configure the cloud, by the way, for us to finish. So under the cloud, go where it says config. So remember, we've used coaxial 7 and the cable to connect that. So I'll go where it says Ethernet 6, which was the connection from the cloud to the server. Then I need to select cable because you're using a cable to connect. Then under cable, we connected coaxial 7 to this Ethernet 6. So we'll just say coaxial 7 to Ethernet 6. Then we need to add these ports because that was our connection. So once we add, it means we've configured that cloud. Then we can now ping successfully with our thing. No wonder it's 4 marks because you need to configure the wireless router, the cloud, and the server. So that's it. So this is Soko James. Thank you for watching. If possible, make another tutorial for another session. If we have still got a lot of Cisco questions to cover. So remember, I'm in school. These things are being done physical till the 28th of this month, which is July 2024. So hoping to see you there before we finish with the physical classes. Otherwise, make sure to subscribe and catch each and every content on this channel relating to cybersecurity at Kapasa, Makasa University. Thank you, and thanks to Mr. Chiara for giving me this opportunity again. Thank you.